What's it like to live and work as a female expat living in Asia? Now, if that question's ever occurred to you, it is great to have you with me. My name is Wendy, and for more than 3 decades, I've lived and worked in 5 different countries in Asia. And I still live and work in Asia, this time in Thailand. And today I want to talk about a topic that comes up all the time on expatriate forums, and that's the idea of how do you get a job in Asia. And let me tell you something, it's a slightly complicated topic. Of course, it depends on which country you're living in. So, for example, if you're living in Singapore or Hong Kong or Kuala Lumpur, you are competing with every man and his dog who's got a good qualification and a great lot of experience, because these are commercial hubs, and the universities in places like that, they're top notch. They really are worldwide. So you don't have a special sort of magic power simply because your university degree comes from the UK. And believe me, if you're living and working in Asia, you should probably make sure that you have the correct qualifications. In a place like Thailand or other developing nations, there are complexities around working. And one of the major complexities is this idea of job protectionism, which is perfectly legitimate when you think about the reasons that it's there. So in a place like Thailand, there are restrictions as to what kind of abilities or what kind of skills can be employed, because Thailand is trying to increase the education and skill sets of its people. So things like massage therapy or anything that's sort of Thai, if you like, is quite protected in the marketplace. And the job that I have, I quite often come across people who have really fantastic experience. They've got loads of, great qualifications from all around the world. They'd like to come to Thailand and, let's say, work in the wellness industry or work in the tourism industry. But the problem is you can't really get a visa for that unless you can show that your particular skill set is different to a local person who also has the qualifications and an innate knowledge of the topic. It always makes me laugh when I find about foreigners who say, they'd like to teach Thai massage. Like, hello, I don't think so. So countries that are developing, you're going to have more trouble finding work. You can work illegally by all means, but do you know something? If you get caught, it is big trouble. It is not worth the effort. Now, there is one area that people can work in most places in Asia, and that's in the field of education. And there's lots of different variances on that as well. So if you're a very highly qualified teaching professional, educational professional, and you've got your name or your head into the game of those kind of high-end international schools, look, the salaries in those schools, it's really good, the benefits are great, and you can get a job in many, many places. There are lots of parts of Asia now where schools have, I want to call them franchises, but that's not quite right, but they're like almost franchises. Like Harrow has a branch in somewhere like Hong Kong, and those schools, they pay well, the benefits are great, the kids are amazing, the parents are rich, and you're going to get a good salary. But if you're working in a developing nation and you're working in a school because you are a native English speaker, which is a valid reason to get a visa, then remember that you're also going to be paid relatively very, very low. So in Thailand, for example, as someone without a teaching degree, but with a degree of some kind, or at least, a good bit of spiel on the way that they speak English, you can get a job that will pay you maybe between 28 and 35, maybe up to 38,000 Thai baht a month. 35,000 Thai baht, that's about $1,000 a month. Can you live on that money? Absolutely you can in Thailand. Will you be lavish? No, but you certainly can. You can live on that kind of money in Thailand. Will you save money? I'm not too sure. It depends. Local teachers are paid a lot less, but that's what you're looking for there. There's a website called ajarn.com, ajarn.com. Ajarn means like teacher or like professor, and that's a place to look. If you just want to come and work for a couple of years, you can get yourself a job there. But if you're working at an international school or a semi kind of hybrid international school, you are going to need a teaching degree, even in developing nations. You could try and tutor under the table, but be aware there's an enormous danger in that, all right? People get busted big time. They'll get sent out of the country, whatever country it is, Laos or Myanmar, don't go there at the moment. You can go there another time. It's a nice place, but a little bit dangerous. But other parts of Asia, now in Japan and Korea, there might be opportunities for you there as well. But it certainly is worth looking into it in a very serious way, in the sense that you don't want to be doing something that's illegal, because you'll find yourself blacklisted, or worse, you'll find yourself spending some time in an Asian jail, and nobody wants that. In terms of other visas, there are other visas available if you want to come and move here, all right? In Thailand, there's something called the education visa, and it's not because you are giving education, it's because you're getting education. So you're learning Thai, Russians can do it learning English, oddly enough, or you can even learn Muay Thai. That's a valid thing for having an education visa. These visas last for about a year, you pay to get them, but that's a way that you can live here. You should not be working on an ED visa. If you're on a retirement visa, you have to be aware that you should not be working on a retirement visa, all right? It's very serious if they catch you out. And every so often they do raids, and they're getting much better at it. And the reason that you can't work is, again, you're not adding anything to the community by working, right? The local community probably doesn't need your skills, whatever they are. You can set up a business for yourself in all of these countries. You can set up a business in Hong Kong, in Singapore, any country you can set up a business. It's expensive, but if you've got the wherewithal to do it, perhaps you're a chef and you'd like to set up your own restaurant, okay, you might need a local partner. You need to speak to a lawyer before you do any of these things. Don't just get here and think, it'll be great. I've been a waiter for the last 10 years, ran my own cafe in my home country. I'm coming in to come and work in Asia. There are lots of rules and lots of restrictions. And keep in mind that if anything about your visa does not say that you can work, so retirement cannot work, education visas cannot work, any other visas in any other countries where there's a stipulation that you cannot work, this means that you also, technically speaking, cannot do volunteer work. All right? Even you want to go and work with the elephants because you love elephants. People do it. It's a risk. People do it. It's a risk. And I'm going to say that twice so that that message gets through. Okay, I know loads of people who do. They want to, come over. They have great ideals that they're going to go and teach local kids to read for free. They'll do it for free. Okay, that's fine. If you do that quietly, that's terrific. If you go on the internet and tell everybody all about this amazing volunteer work that you do and you're on a retirement visa, expect for someone to notice. And all it takes is a local person who feels that you are taking the job of someone local who should have that job, and you'll get busted for it. And it's not a pleasant thing. So can you work in Asia? Yes, you can, but you need to be realistic about what the rules are, how you're going to get that set up. And if it's something high end, if it's setting up a business or something high stakes, for heaven's sakes, speak to a local lawyer first before you get yourself into any sorts of trouble. You might need a local partner in some situations like that. In Malaysia, I believe it's like that, and certainly in Thailand it is like that. And if you're in one of the larger commercial hubs, if you're the most amazing lawyer ever and you want to give up living in your home country and go and move to another place, as long as you understand you've got the right qualifications for the local laws, obviously, you might have to do some bridging things, stuff like that, then yes, you can get yourself a job. Now, some people might find this all a little bit ironic, given that in a country like Australia where they're desperate for nurses, a lot of nurses in the country areas come from outside of Australia because it's not such a popular job for local nurses in Australia. Isn't international travel interesting? All right, I've got a colleague who's Thai, who's just spent a few years living and working as a nurse in Australia, came back with a shockingly amazing West Australian accent, and she got the visa to work there because she's a nurse, she's a qualified nurse, and she went and did a bridging course, and then she went and lived in Australia and made some money and sent some money home, and now she's back home. So yeah, ebbs and flows. But please, please, please don't get on a plane and think, I'll work it out when I'll get there and I'll get a job, because it's really hard to do. Go onto forums and find out realistically, and don't just take other expats' word for it, okay? Speak to someone who actually has something to do with recruitment, somebody who actually has something to do with the law, and find out before you get on a plane, because it's going to be very disappointing for you if you think that the way you're going to finance enhance your expatriate lifestyle is by working in a country where you're not legally allowed to work. That is my advice for that one. Now, if you want to find out more information about what it's like to date in Asia as a single woman, or whether or not you can buy a decent bra, which many times you can't if you've got a big chest in Asia, by all means, follow one of my other videos and that'll set you in the right way. And please, would you like and subscribe this video if it gave you any information at all that you found to be helpful, because that really helps me build this channel, and that's something I want to do, and bring in the voices of other expats as well. If you are living and working as an expat in Asia, particularly as a woman, do reach out, send me a little message. For the record, I do work here, and the way that I get around that job is because I am a native English speaker, and the work that I do involves that particular skill set. And I work for a resort, and they need that for that kind of for their resort to deal with their foreign guests. So that's how I work in Thailand, in case you're interested. Outside of that, you have yourself a lovely day, evening, afternoon, whenever you're watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.